Hello, hello. To get that sound check done real quick. It's very quiet in here. But how good do you hear me? Such an amazing sound is good. Thank you, Nanny Puffins. You seem to be on it today. Hello, Pamela Swan. I heard somebody in your vicinity needs an air conditioner. I got one or two here for you. If we can get them over there. Let's see. Audio's good. Thank you, guys. All right. So much to go through. I had a blast. As you know, I went to Glen Rose, Texas as a child. Well, I was 13, 14 both times I went, and it was really interesting experience going back. Most of you have already seen the previous video on Glenrose, but you didn't see any of this. So it's one thing to acquire information, from books. Book learning is good. Applications are better, but sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes the only window to the outside world that we have is through literature, through books. This was supposed to be the advantage of the internet, and the internet became a tool of control rather than one that lends credence to the idea that of the perpetuation of knowledge. The internet has basically done the opposite of what it was promoted to be. So it is still from books that we derive the greatest value. But when you're in the flesh and you're in the presence of the very things you read about, when you're on location and you see and you're able to touch the very artifacts and objects that have been pulled forth from the earth that show a completely different world, one you've read about, one you've processed, you understand, you've gone through the legends and myths and traditional material. You've gone through the chronographical material, all the ancient text, eyewitness accounts. You've gone through all the testimony that can be derived from old sources. And it's a part of your belief structure. It still doesn't quite prepare you for when you see it face to face. So I'm going to show it to you in this video. Some amazing things. Shout out to Justin Oyola. You know what I'm talking about? Being on site is a totally different experience. It doesn't change what you know, it solidifies it. So, due to recent developments, I'm a little behind on emails, but don't worry. I've got all your emails. So quit asking me if I got your emails. I do have them. We're in the middle of developing an email filing system, rearranging a little bit, and the cipher emails. Don't worry about it. Next 2 or 3 days, you'll all have your downloads, and those of you who want to join the program will be able to do that. And a new Telegram group has just been started, and that's already underway. You can go to it now. So, don't worry about the emails. Don't worry about orders processing. All that's going to get taken care of. We're all about the business in this video here. Somebody mentioned earlier, oh yeah, Archaix 4.0, this is going to be great. This is not Archaix 4.0. This is the last video of Archaix 3.0. The final 3.0 video. Archaix 4.0 is about going back to the original 300 videos that have a compact, condensed, massive amount of data points and data sets on the Phoenix phenomenon, Nemesis X, the dark satellite, world chronological systems, all these things that a lot of people who have come to Archaix don't even know is on the channel because they've been montaged in the older videos, which were terrible audio, terrible delivery, terrible presentation, done on a tablet, done on a phone, done with a lot of background noise, done in environments that were not conducive to the material that was being conveyed. Archaix 4.0 is bringing all this data back to the table with all the new stuff that we've learned in the last 5 years. With a lot of new stuff out of my notes that I was never able to procure before. But I've got them now. So, yeah, Archaix 4.0 starts first week of June. And you're going to be hearing things about the Phoenix phenomenon you've never heard before. That's how much notes we have. So if you really like the old vids, you're really going to like Archaix 4.0. Now, thank you, moderators, for being there. We've gone through the material in Archaix, but we haven't gone through it in depth. I have told you guys many times about this book. This book right here, Evolution Cruncher. It is a massive book. This book has it has more data than is necessary to kill a theory. Evolution Cruncher does just that. It crunches the theory of uniformitarianism, natural selection, all the BS Charles Lyell published in Elements of Geology. Shows you the artifacts that have been found in coal deposits, shows you the giant footprints that have been found in stone, human footprints, shows you the lies of the establishment about dinosaurs and about all kinds of scientific controversies. Every time they tried to pull the wool over our eyes with hominids and pig teeth and trying to say that these are human ancestors, this book exposes all the scientific grift. Shows you how the uniformitarian dating systems, relative dating methods, potassium, argon, dendrochronology, carbon-14, the breakdown of carbon isotopes in the atmosphere, being their base denominator is absolutely untrue, because different time periods, the breakdown of those isotopes happened in different ways, and it can't be used as a standard. This book breaks it down. Ian Wilson in Before the Flood, another fantastic book in the Archaix library, goes in and shows all the historical, mythological, traditional data that he could find with the scientific and geographical and geological data that shows there was a great flood. It did destroy almost the entire world. There was a time period before the flood of a world very different than our own. Ian Wilson, Before the Flood, another very big book. Of course, Jonathan Gray, he's got a pretty nice book on all the worldwide events that were occurring during the flood. All the things going on in the world right up to the Great Flood event, 2239 BC, that wiped out all the civilizations of the world and reset humanity, at least for a couple hundred years. Yeah, that's here. Jonathan Gray, Surprise Witness. Another book that I have promoted many times. I'm just going through these books in the Archaix library that I have promoted to you guys to show you this amazing amount of data that we have accessible to us. Because I'm going to show you at Glen Rose where they have the artifacts, they have the discoveries, the scientific data to back all this up. Darwin's Mistake, another fantastic book. I read this in prison. I've told you guys about this book. That is a saurian, some three-toed giant creature, and then a human came right behind it, stepping into its footprints. Fossilized. You'll learn about fossilized raindrops. What the hell happened that raindrop impressions were permanently petrified into the mud as the human prints and supposedly dinosaur prints were also fossilized? We already know. My moderators can post it now. The Nemesis reset theory, the Medusa effect video, shows you the whole world flash froze. That's where fossils come from. Another great book that humans and what we're calling dinosaurs, gigantic lizards and amphibians, lived in a totally different biosphere and they lived together. Another fantastic book that talks about this and shows the proof. Dead Men's Secrets. The pre-flood world was a world of advanced technology. Here it is. Jonathan Gray. The Corpse Come Back. Again, Jonathan Gray. Here is a book that describes how the world was completely destroyed in a great flood and how it came back. And when it came back, the historical record for which you and I are familiar with, ancient Egypt, Sumer, Assyria, Babylonia, Elam, India, Urartu, the Hurrians, the Hittites, the Amuru. This is the world that we've become familiar with. He shows that this world that the historians talk about is all post-cataclysm. And again, Jonathan Gray documents a lot. This is the killing of a paradise planet. He's showing in here that the world before the flood was a paradise. A paradise as far as the biosphere is concerned. And this is what they found in Glen Rose today through scientific methods that are really compelling. Again, this is by a geologist who wrote a book, The Rocks Don't Lie. It's a geologist bucking the system, because to be a geologist, to be trained in any university in the world today, you are trained only in the uniformitarian model. They have abandoned catastrophism, but he went back to catastrophism and shows that none of these anomalies show glaciation. The glaciation, the errata, the distribution of boulders, this is not evidence of ice ages. This is water distribution. This is this is another very compelling book, that the world was destroyed by the agency of water. That water that destroyed the world wasn't an ordinary flood. It was the collapse of an entire ocean that was suspended in the atmosphere. It's called the waters above. In this book, we have the scientific evidence laid out simply for everybody to understand. It is a huge book, but in this text, you find out that the Vapor Canopy world is scientifically documented. It is very well known, and there have been many authors, scientists who have produced not only reports but even peer-reviewed studies and books about Earth's earlier Vapor Canopy world. And in this book, you'll find out that the creatures they called dinosaurs were giant lizards and amphibians that lived with giant mammals and giant humans under an ocean in the sky. The Great Flood was the collapse of the Vapor Canopy. Yeah, some of you guys thought I made all this stuff up when I was doing all these videos 4 and 5 years ago. No. Again, one of the great classics of all time, Forbidden Archaeology. In this book is this is Michael Cremo, Richard Thompson. This book here, it's just unusual to read all these accounts of people in the 1800s and early 20th century who used their little coal hammers, because coal was delivered by wagon. Everybody had furnaces with a tiny little door. You had a bronze dish or some type of dish next to your oven, and coal was delivered in lumps, large lumps. And it was the homeowner's duty to take their little coal hammer and just knock off whatever pieces they need, opened up the little oven door and pop the little coal in there. Close the door, and the coal would heat the cast iron oven. It would heat the whole house. This was a system that was in place for like 150 years. And over and over and over, inside those lumps of coal, people found prizes. Yeah, they got prizes. You want a prize. Open this one up, a prize pops out. It's like a Cracker Jack coal lump. Sometimes they found an emerald ring, a silver bracelet, a brooch, buttons, little pins like needles and stuff, sewing needles. They found very ornate handbells, sometimes full chalices with all kinds of elaborate and very badly misunderstood artwork. Sometimes they found pieces of amazing pieces of artwork, dishes that were unrecognizable with silver inlaid in gold. So it begs the question, what in the hell is coal? If all these human manufactured artifacts are found inside of it. The Great Flood, William Morris. He's another pioneer. He's a great one. The Genesis Flood, the biblical record and its scientific implications, 1961. This is a classic, especially in the creationist world. It's packed with diagrams and pictures of fossils. This also shows that our world was destroyed not 65 million years ago, but just 4,500 years ago. Our world was totally obliterated and we started over. And it was a world with a vapor canopy that completely collapsed. And when it did, it caused 40 days and 40 nights of flooding. Did the entire world flood up to the highest mountain like the book of Genesis says? Absolutely not. Were human survivors everywhere fleeing up to the top of the mountains? Absolutely. Why didn't they freeze to death? Because the alpine regions and the difference, and because of the atmospheric pressure from the floodwaters, when the collapse happened, the waters of the seas and oceans rose and it changed the air pressure, which changed the altitude, temperature, timberlines changed. They survived very easily in the caves at higher altitudes. But when sea level went all the way back down and the extremities, which is the North Pole, the South Pole, acquired all of the moisture grouped into sheets of ice, the temperature stabilized and there was a habitable zone all around the world, whereas the far north and the far south were completely frozen, and it took almost 1,000 years for those ice sheets to recede. And that's after the Great Flood was the closest thing to an ice age we've ever had. So, you guys, I always promote William Corliss Sourcebook Project, Ancient Man, a handbook to puzzling artifacts. In here, he shows all this evidence. There's no way some of this architecture and these artifacts that have been found could have ever been used by humans our size. Humans must have been huge. It's an amazing book. I'm making a mess back here with books. Thank you, Matt Kubas. Thank you, bud. Ancient infrastructure. Remarkable roads, mines, walls, mounds, stone circles. Another William Corliss book. It's inexplicable. There are no explanations coming from the historian, the archaeologist, and the scientist as to how these very sophisticated tracks have been found fossilized all over our world. In Malta, in the UK, in Texas. I know Paul Cook's shown some of them too. Obscure tracks for something, just like the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid, which is very technolithic, highly precise with high tolerances. Some type of mechanism went up and down the Grand Gallery. All the architecture shows it had a mechanical function, but we have no answers from those who are supposed to be providing them. I'm reading right now Reliquiae Diluvii, right here. This book was written in the 1800s. This guy here, he's a scientist that studies caves in the UK and in Europe, principally France and Belgium. The caves that he studies are absolutely packed with human artifacts, human skeletal parts, and megafauna skeletal parts. he's a diluvian geologist, meaning he studies all evidence of flood activity that causes geological formations. His conclusion is that there were no ice ages and that floods completely caused all the errata and extinctions and all the things that we found. And it wasn't floods over millions of years. It was 1, 2, or 3 episodes. Texas tracks and artifacts. These are human footprints fossilized all over the state of Texas. Been found in multiple locations, artifacts of human design made by just, tools and weapons made by humans, but they're found in fossil form all over the state of Texas. Here, Dr. Carl Baugh. I went to creation research. Why do men believe in evolution against all odds? I read this book in prison. That's why I wanted to meet the man. I didn't get to meet him. He's 88 years old and he's still doing fossil digs. He was out on a crew. They were all out in the field at a place outside called the Taylor. It was called the Taylor property or the Taylor Ranch or the Taylor sector, but it was a fossil-rich area that had been recently discovered, and they were all out there. And he literally has people paying him to go out and fossil hunt, and he's still doing it. But he wrote this book. Another great book by Dr. Carl Baugh, PhD, is Panorama of Creation. He is a PhD. He is the founder of the Creation Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. And the stuff I'm about to show you is going to blow your mind, what they found. Like I said, reading all this in books is one experience. And it's good enough for me in order for me to intellectually put together a chronology of the world. But going to see the actual artifacts that have been found inside coal and close to the surface of the ground, what's been found impressed in these so-called dinosaur footprints, yeah, seeing is believing. Here's a really good book, The Crystalline Canopy. It's talking about the Vapor Canopy. Now, according to this, the Vapor Canopy was underneath a solid crystal sphere. And at the Great Flood, that crystal firmament fractured like glass. And when it fractured, it wasn't able to hold the moisture in the sky, and the Vapor Canopy collapsed. With it, though, all over the world, gigantic shards of this frozen, gaseous, like a shield or whatever, fell with it. So these things crashed to the earth, but because they were made of gases, they kind of dissipated over time. Or melted in the flood, whatever. It's pretty harrowing, really. An amazing book showing all these impossible fossils. There's so many fossils I've showed 4 different videos with a bunch of impossible fossils. Animals in the middle of giving birth, 3-dimensional jellyfish, which it's impossible to petrify those under the uniformitarian model of fossilization. But we have so many specimens. The Creation Museum in Glen Rose, Texas, has a 3-dimensional jellyfish that was turned to stone. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. This book records all the same stuff. It's just like my video, except it's in book form, and it shows many fossils I didn't even know existed. The whole world froze. The whole world froze. This is a pretty interesting book. It's not real packed, but this is the Chronicles of Dinosauria, and it's just a pictorial guide going through, showing you all the evidence that what we're calling dinosaurs, giant reptiles and giant amphibians, lived side by side with humans. I think I'll drink to that. I appreciate you guys joining me on this. I appreciate you guys joining me on this Friday night. I know Friday night's not ideal to do a YouTube video, so a lot of people will be watching this video over the weekend, and that's good too. That's good too. If you have access to this book and you're interested in Archaix related concepts, you will want to read The Mammoth and the Flood, 1887. Yeah. These men knew how to write. They knew how to research. Small print, massive bibliographies. In this book, it's written in 1887, but he's going through the archaeological accounts going back to the year 1000. And he shows the things that were written in different areas of Europe that were being found when they were clearing out spaces for new buildings, or after storms when a mudslide had fallen from a hill, exposing 11-foot tall human giant just protruding from the hill. His book is, I need to do a video on this book, but his book is packed with all kinds of amazing discoveries from all over Europe, of just things that show that the mythological and the traditional record is absolutely true. Yeah, he shows giant humans were living and fighting creatures that they referred to as dragons, and that there's armor and weapons that were specifically manufactured to fight these large creatures. I just bought a William Corliss book. I see you, Johnny Ochoa. I see you. This book comes from the 1880s as well. As a matter of fact, one of my first 20 videos on YouTube concerns this book. This is J.L. Porter. He's an archaeologist and it's a travelogue. But this is J.L. Porter's Giant Cities of Bashan. Right here. In the Old Testament, there is a race of giants called the Rephaim, and they lived in northern Syria, and the Israelites were terrified of them. They felt like grasshoppers next to them. They considered themselves very small compared to these people. And the race of giants were survivors from the giant wars of Chedorlaomer that were mentioned earlier in Genesis chapter 14 and 15. But by the time of the exodus of Israel from Egypt in the biblical narrative, we have this race of giants that was living in the cities of Bashan and in the cities of Argob in northern Syria, where the later Israelites occupied. Well, it's one thing to read about giants in the Bible. It's another thing to read about giants that have been found excavated all over the world in books and all kinds of things. But it's entirely another when a scientist goes to northern Israel into the obscure locations in the highest mountains of Syria and finds whole entire mountains carved out with steps in these megalithic frames with the door jambs, the posts, the lintels, and the megalithic doors all hewn out of one stone. How do you do that? It's the same mystery as the crystal skull. How do you manufacture a skull of crystal with a movable jaw when crystal has no yield? If you try to bend it to fit the jaw into the niches so the jaw will move on the skull, you're going to fracture the crystal. It has no yield. And the mountains of Bashan are granite. They have no yield. How were megalithic doors with the posts, the jambs, the lintels, and the frames all made of one stone? And yet these are movable parts. How did they do it? There's only one way to do that today, and that's called 3D printing. It's the only way it can possibly be done today with anything. But he found these and documented in this book that these are identical to the same architecture that has been found in South America, principally Peru. Also, gigantic doors with jambs and lintels and frames, all one stone. Two places in the world, both rich in traditions of giants, and yet the steps, the doors themselves, and the beds, the bed chambers and the beds, because the beds were carved into the walls, would only be comfortable to a human race that actually stood 9.5 to 10.5 feet tall. J.L. Porter's Giant Cities of Bashan. Jonathan Gray, World of Giants. He goes through and he shows a lot of examples that giants are still among us today, even though it's for different reasons, like genetic disorders. The pituitary gland is excreting too much hormone or whatever. He just shows it's very possible, and there's many giants in the historical record. Also, we have Lost Race of Giants by Patrick Chouinard. This is a pretty good, compelling book showing how giant skeletons have been found in North America, and the FBI and the Smithsonian show up and no one ever sees them again. Same with Giants on Record. This is a rather big book. Here's Giants on Record. I've showed this on my channel here. Jim Vieira and Hugh Newman. A lot of accounts in the 1700s and 1800s, while we were laying out the infrastructure of the United States here in North America, giants were found all over the place, excavated. And of course, many of you know that I wrote a giants book published by Book Tree Press in San Diego. This is my giants book. It's pretty good size, very small print. It's real small print. It's got a lot, but I did mention a couple chapters of archaeology, but my focus here is I went real rich on the traditions and the parallels, the comparative traditions, comparative mythology, comparative beliefs about giants across the board. And I showed the common denominators. And my conclusion is there's no way in hell that gigantic humans were here. We're not here, and that we just made them up when people and cultures all around the world were documenting them, and they had remained. As a matter of fact, I even have a whole chapter in here called Epics of the Giants. My conclusion in there, after listing over 20 different ancient epics from civilizations all over the world from different time periods, going through their epic literature like the Beowulf epic, like the Epic of Gilgamesh. I went through the world's oldest and most popular epics, and the common denominator between them all was giants. That's an old study. I did that research a long time ago. So, having got all that out of the way, so glad it only took 35 minutes to do that. Let me show you Glen Rose, Texas. Gotta love Glen Rose. So, well, on my channel also, I do want to mention some things like we're going to bring these things back to the table, but the archaeological findings of William Niven, who has been really demonized by the scientific community, even though he's gone down in history as discovering 3 or 4 new minerals that science had never heard of, never found. One of them they actually named Ninevite from William Niven. But William Niven basically pissed off the scientific community because outside of Mexico City, he excavated an area 60 feet deep. The topography of the area kept yielding forth strange artifacts from the locals, and they were selling them in Mexico City. And he traced it to where it was coming from outside Mexico City because he thought a scam was going on. He thought somebody local was making these things. There's no way that they were coming from, underground. They weren't legitimate. And what I'm talking about is someone in Mexico City was selling ceramic, clay jars and coffee mugs and all kinds of things, but the handles and some of the ornate decoration were of anatomically correct dinosaurs, or what we're calling dinosaurs. When he traced it, this is the discovery of Acámbaro. 35,000 clay figurines showing anatomically correct prehistoric animals that have been found in the fossil record. And yet at Acámbaro, the figurines show that these creatures were playing with and domesticated by normal humans. So I have a video about that, Acámbaro. William Niven discovered mastodon bones side by side with human remains on the level of ancient pyramids that are almost dateless because of their depth. So he kind of pissed off the scientific community about that. These are things that we've shown. We've shown these things a lot in Archaix. I wanted to get all of this out of the way for those who are new to my channel and don't know all the topics that we've covered ad nauseum before we start showing all this. Xenomorph, you talking about Fred Flintstone for? Man. Kelly Everett said it too. Flintstones come to mind. Yeah, man. Hold on just a second. Turn that back on. I started sweating. Okay. Glen Rose, Texas. You guys, I know you guys want to see this stuff here. Tired of me going through books. Let's do it. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right. Oh, thank you for that $50. That looks like Michael Masek's picture. 2178. All good. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I hardly ever look at my chats to know what's really happening until after the video. So I appreciate that. I have noticed in the past 2 days, a lot of older Archaix veterans who have not appeared in my chat in 1, 2, and 3 years have come back, and it's been rather humbling. I just want to thank you for doing that. You know who you are. I have been getting the emails, and I've been seeing your comments on my channel. I have been seeing names because I from the inception of my channel, I've been very engaged with my community, and to see so many, I've seen at least 20 YouTube handles have reappeared on my channel in the last 2 days that have been gone for 1, 2, and 3 years. You know who you are. And it's something, man. Welcome back. I'm glad you've been quietly listening, or you made the decision to recently come back. Hey, man, it means a lot to me. It really does. So let's get on. Let's get on to Glen Rose. I don't know about better than chocolate cake. So outside of Dinosaur Valley National Park in Glen Rose, Texas, where I went as a kid in the 80s, they now 5 years ago built this massive RV park with bungalows. It's on the same Paluxy River. It's right next to the national park. You can walk between the two. I thought it was great. This is the building I checked in right here. Great people. Went in and talked to them about what is it going to take for me to secure the campgrounds, and they got way too many to secure. There's more than enough room for everybody who wants to come to the Archaix camp out at Glen Rose. I want my community, as many people as can, to come out here and camp. There's all kinds of different options. You can bring your own RVs like these people did, and it's like $30 a night. Excuse me, it's like $15 a night if you just want to park for a couple of days or whatever. But there's no hookups. And then it's like $40 or $50 a night if you need all the hookups. And then the bungalows, I stayed in a bungalow because I didn't take anything but the van. So showers, kitchenette, everything you need. It's like a tiny home. Everything you need. And a loft. A whole family can fit in the bungalows. And there's 6 bungalows that a whole family can fit in, because the kids can be in the loft up there. There's 2 sizable beds, a lot of room up there, and then a master bedroom down there, and then somebody can even sleep in the living room. But about 5 people, I would say 5 people is the max for the bungalows, except for the 2 bungalows on the end are like for groups. If like a group of like 8 or 9 or 10 people wanted to rent a bungalow, there's 2 of them that are that size, big ones, like college dormitories or something. I didn't go in them. Here's the bungalows right here. Right there. I stayed in the second one. This is when I first drove up. Now, across the street, this is for kids, Dinosaur World. This is where they brainwash your kids into believing in the 65 millionaire. It's probably very entertaining and all that, but this was put here for a reason. This is to offset with the Creation Museum. This is very sinister. This was put here. It's like a theme park, but it's put here. It's put here to undo the damage that the Creation Museum is doing to the scientific paradigm, because the Creation Museum is overturning all this BS. It's a theme park for kids. It's like a museum for kids. There's old Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh, look at this. I don't know what this is. Maybe y'all know. I got a high resolution camera. People were finding fossils everywhere out here. It's like Fossil Rim. Glen Rose is famous for these fossils. You can see it really clearly defined now. I got a really good camera. Look at this. I'm trying to go slow into it. But they're everywhere. You can't walk 10 feet in a direction, look down, and not see some type of fossilized remains of something. I don't even know what that is. But this is just from the art. I'm not even in Dinosaur Valley Park, and I'm not even at the Creation Museum. I'm just at the RV park outside of the national park. Again, let's say an ancient sponge or a fossilized ant mound, the inside of an ant hill. I don't know what this is. Well, hold on. I probably do. That looks like the inner rim of a clam shell. Right here. I see it now. And all the stuff in the middle is just filler. That's the clam. That's the rim of the clam shell. We're looking at the underside of it. Petrified wood is everywhere out here. Hell, they built whole buildings out of it. This is just the RV. I just got a few of these pictures from the RV park. But these are just found at the RV park. Love my camera. Fossils everywhere. You don't even have to look hard. You don't have to look hard. Look at this. Here's a rock at the upper right. Looks like vertebrae, doesn't it? Doesn't that look like vertebrae on the upper right? I don't know what that is. But this is embedded in it. You know what that is. Seashell. But it's a fossil seashell. Remember that. It's a very important point. This is a fossil of a seashell. Here's that vertebrae, or whatever that is again. Just a different vantage point. Yeah, these are just my finds, guys, at the RV. They're nothing spectacular. This is nothing like what you're going to see in the Creation Museum. So that's my first file. Let's move on to the Creation Museum. So there's my van in the distance. It was raining pretty bad that day. This is the entry. Just walked up. It's a giant fossilized tree. We got a sign that says, "Don't sit on the tree." There's a sign for the diggers. Dr. Carl Baugh goes out every day, 88 years old, leading these archaeological expeditions, and they are unearthing fossils. They're at some place called Taylor Reserve or some, I can't remember what it was. Creation Evidence Museum of Texas, the entrance. Now here's the polystrate fossil. Before we read this, you need to see what it is. Now I've got a video that goes into a lot of detail, and I showed about 10 different pictures of photographs of polystrate fossils. Polystrate fossils completely overturn the uniformitarian geological column as a method of dating fossils and strata of rock. The reason being is because you would have to accept that this tree survived hundreds of millions of years as these layers were deposited over hundreds of thousands and millions of years. In uniformitarian geology, for which we get our 65 million year Jurassic period, our KT boundary, our Ordovician, Devonian, Triassic period, Jurassic period, all these periods are all dated by this standard that it took so many hundreds of millions of years and millions of years for different layers of strata to be laid down. It is entirely bogus theory. Uniformitarianism was specifically designed. You could consider it to be the communism of geology because it's obfuscating the truth, and the only function uniformitarian science has is to bury the truth in a lie. And the truth is catastrophism. The history of the world is cataclysms. And that's what this shows. And this shows one single catastrophe. Because this upright tree stayed underwater as, according to its weight and density, under scrambled water from a collapsing vapor canopy, all these materials in an earthquake, subsidence, upheaval, massive windstorms, the world is being destroyed. Vapor canopy is flooding the world, and all these particulates will sink to the bottom according to their weight and density. And when they do, they form layers just like a fishbowl, just like this. And while this happened in just a period of minutes or hours, this tree stood firm through it all. So when it was over with, and the atmosphere was weak, and the magnetosphere had collapsed, and the sun baked the entire world in a flash, all this turned to stone. The Medusa effect. That's a polystrate fossil. Polystrate fossils go through multiple layers of geology, and this right here completely undermines the uniformitarian model. This is what it's describing right here, how polystrate fossils have been found everywhere, and they completely overturn the science. That's what he's talking about. You can go to the museum and see all that. Polystrate fossils, meaning through many layers, everything I just told you. In the museum, this is the Texas hammer I've told you guys a lot about. An actual hammer of human manufacture that was found fossilized underneath layers of stone, fossilized itself into a layer of rock. 1936 in London, Texas. 113 miles northwest of Austin, Texas. This pre-flood hammer was found. It's not the only artifact from the pre-flood world. The artifacts that are shown to the left and right are actual bowls and cups and mugs showing dinosaurs as handles. These objects were found inside coal. These are the real, these are not replicas. Everything you're seeing in these glass cases are original. That is the original hammer that was found. When they walk you through the museum, they explain to you some of these fossils in the back are replicas because these are famous fossils in museums elsewhere. But everything in the rest of the museum, these are real. These are footprints you're looking at right here, petrified in stone. Somebody was wearing sandals, and in some parts you can even see the stitching on the soles of the sandals. The London hammer is famous, guys. It's absolutely famous. It's been In many of the books that I just showed you just now, the London hammer has been featured in hundreds of books and in many YouTube videos, because even the iron and the wood that was fossilized has been tested, and it's highly unique. We do not smelt ores to the purification of the iron that is found in the London hammer. I got more pictures of the London hammer I'll show you in a minute. I'm just going through some of this stuff. This is a fossil human finger. They've done x-rays on it. Scientists have studied it. They've done MRIs, CT scans, and they have determined that this is a female index finger. You can even see, the bone inside was fossilized, but it became a denser material because it was already bone. You can see epidermis, dermis, a subcutaneous layer, the cuticles, the fingernail, everything is very defined on the in the fossil. Yeah, they've done X-rays and everything on this thing. Now, what's great about it is it was found in Cretaceous strata. We know this is not hundreds of millions of years old or even millions of years old. Fossils are created in seconds. Oh, this is something else. This right here, we'll get to that later. This is a unique. You've seen this on YouTube and in books before. This is an ancient map of the known world in Babylon, and well, the reason it's interesting is because it mentions an ark. It actually mentions that these are places in juxtaposition to the position of the ark. This is an old map. In cuneiform, it mentions that these places are the distances from the ark. Babylonian map of the world. So crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, Creation Evidence Museum, geological column, the Wall of Truth. So, they're showing in the geological column. This is what's really interesting about it, because what science is saying is Cenozoic. They're saying it's Cenozoic. So, the Creation Museum are saying, well, you're calling it Cenozoic, but we're finding all kinds of human artifacts in here of great sophistication. And that humans and mammoths and mastodons and giant creatures all lived at the same time. Showing Cretaceous limestone. In the Cretaceous limestone, there isn't supposed to be humans. Humans aren't even supposed to be around. But in the Cretaceous limestone, we're finding all kinds of things like architecture, brick walls, dinosaur prints that stepped directly over human footprints, but right before they were fossilized. Remember, that book I showed you earlier shows raindrop impressions that were flash frozen into the stone. All kinds of human prints in the Cretaceous. Then the early Cretaceous sandstone, there's not supposed to be a hint of humans anywhere, but we find a hammer. There's the Texas hammer. It's crazy. So here's the Jurassic claystone sandstone of Colorado. They find these giant femurs. Here's a giant femur. What is a giant human femur doing here? Lower Jurassic, Triassic red beds. Here, the Triassic period has all this folding and buckling. Again, Permo-Triassic. We're talking about hundreds of millions of years ago. Permian Basin type artifacts where human footprints right there. Not just ordinary human, but the human footprints are 17 and 19 inches long. They need to play in the NBA. And then we have the Pennsylvania Pennsylvanian, which is called the Carboniferous. This is the coal deposits. Look how deep they are. The coal deposits. And yet, coming out of the coal deposits are dishes, trilobites, human artifacts, bowls and mugs, and the handles are anatomically correct dinosaurs. Here's a little fossil of a school of fish, flash frozen all together. Here is the actual scientific model. The Creation Museum shows that this is 100% fiction. Hundred percent fiction. I thought this was really cool. You know what you're looking at. You're looking at the front of a model of Noah's Ark according to the specifications in the Bible, the Atrahasis Epic, Epic of Gilgamesh, all that. Somebody made this with matchsticks. Look at this. Look at that. Look at the detail. Those big giant cylinders have a scientific purpose. They talk about that at the Creation Museum. They were full of fresh water, not only for drinking, but also as stabilizers, because they had a shaft that goes down the middle with a mechanism on the shaft like a pendulum. So anytime the ark would sway in the waters, the 4 giant water reservoirs with these mechanisms inside would stabilize the ark and stop it from rolling. I know you guys want to see that again. Big giant model showing that if the story is true about the building of the ark, then these dimensions given and specifications, it would have looked basically like this, with this much hull integrity, keel, windows along the top, and this much space. 4 decks. Pretty compelling. Now, you guys know that from my own historical research, I do not believe in the story of that there was one ark, because I have provided traditional evidence that says that there were fleets of arks, which makes more sense to me than one single ark. Here's some trilobite fossils. Trace fossils record the activity of an organism. Look at these trace fossils. These are not 3-dimensional fossils. These are trace fossils. These got trapped in whatever sediments were being laid down and basically squished to death. Look at the detail on these 3-dimensional fossils, trilobites. Flash frozen. That's why they're so perfectly preserved. It's like a giant megafauna roly-poly. That's a doodle bug. I'll play with that. National Geographic, was Darwin wrong? No. The evidence for evolution is overwhelming. If they have to tell you that over and over and over and over, they're probably hiding something. All right, moving on to better things. So I've told you guys for years on my channel about the hyperbaric chamber in Glen Rose, Texas. Although it wasn't here when I was here as a kid. Well, I got a tour. from a real scientist. Sat down with me, and before I let her go on too far, I had to explain to her. So listen, you're talking to somebody who's already on the team, and I explained to her everything I could in about 2 minutes why uniformitarianism is wrong, why catastrophism is the truth, and while I'm absolutely on board. And I even educated her on some things she didn't even know. I was going on how the whole world froze, flash frozen. I explained to her about the 3D jellyfish and all these things. And she told me straight out, she says, I've never heard that theory about the whole world flash freezing. But she says, it really kind of does make sense when you consider the fact that the jellyfish were fossilized because they don't have any bones. She says, and we do have a fossilized jellyfish and it is 3D. I was like, man, take me to it. So she educated me. She educated me on see if y'all seeing what I'm seeing. Cool. So she educated me on what they're doing here. This is a lab. This is a real science lab inside the museum. I wasn't allowed inside the actual lab part, but they did let me go into the observation area. And in the observation area, she showed me the Joshua hyperbaric biosphere. It's right here. Inside this biosphere and another biosphere, they're growing all kinds of things in here, guys. They're using different air pressures and all kinds of stuff to make things. Look, here's hyperbaric biosphere number 2. This one is called Caleb. The other one I just showed you is called Joshua. You have to understand, these are Christian scientists. I get it. I don't have a problem with that. They're up against incredible odds with the uniformitarian culture. So these scientists are in here working on real fossils and specimens. In these 2 hyperbaric chambers, in these 2 chambers, they increased the air pressure. Sometimes they use ultraviolet light to mimic vapor canopy conditions. They've increased the oxygen, and fruit flies grew 3 times larger, and they live 3 times longer. Piranha grew 3 times larger. I forget what other species they named. Listen, this is so unusual. But I got to tell you what she showed me. She showed me rattlesnake venom under a microscope. That rattlesnake venom today under a microscope, it looks evil. It has 90-degree angle corners and jagged little, it's just really jagged. Everything under a microscope. It's rattlesnake venom, especially in Texas. Everybody knows, if your car breaks down in West Texas at nighttime, the dumbest thing in the world is to get out on those highways, because the rattlesnakes all in the deserts in West Texas, they climb onto the freeways and they sit there and enjoy all night the hot asphalt, because the sun bakes it all night, and it doesn't even cool off till about 3 a.m. And rattlesnake, way out in the middle of West Texas, you get hit, you're ordinarily going to die before you get to the hospital. So rattlesnake venom under a microscope looks terrible. It looks chaotic. But rattlesnake venom from rattlesnakes that have been in hyperbaric chambers, where the rattlesnake has been in increased oxygen, ultraviolet light, increased air pressure, replicating the pre-flood conditions, the venom of the rattlesnake isn't even poisonous. Process that when you're thinking about all the stories of the Garden of Eden. So it's just some amazing things they're doing with animals. There were some other creatures she told me about, but in every incident, it's they live longer and they grow bigger. It's simple as that. Now, these are small biospheres. You can imagine what they're about to start doing in this one. They just recently had a door added to it that had been damaged under high pressure. So They had to wait for parts from out of the country. Now they're waiting for other parts. They're going to have this fully operational. It's 60 feet long biosphere. They're going to create the pre-flood world using all kinds of different animals, plants, and species. They're going to get the lighting right. They're going to get the air pressure right. They're going to get the oxygen content right, and they're going to document what happens to all these life forms. This is 60 foot long. It's got many portals and windows. I'm excited about the project. Here it is there. I even donated to the Creation Library. I mean, the Creation Museum. Look at the size of that. You can't even go to the back. That's authorized personnel only. Look at the size of that. It's massive. It's massive. Glen Rose, Texas, guys. This is Glen Rose, Texas. So they got three biospheres, and they've been doing some amazing things. Let's go ahead and get in their business. Oh, he caught me taking a picture. Oh no, he's looking at her. He might be. No, he's looking at me. Hey, these guys look like they were really they were really involved in whatever their work was. Oh, let me get off that computer. Oh, they were really involved in their work. And they've got people from all over the world sending them fossils, and they're studying them. That's what they're doing. Got a lot of specimens. Yeah, man. I love this place. I love this place. We get out of their business. There she is, bless her heart. There she is. She's the one. That we had a great conversation. Her and I had a great conversation. I told her about the YouTube channel. I told her that what I'm gonna do. I told her that I'm not here because they're real nervous about that type of stuff. Guys show up talking about YouTube videos and all that because they've been done real dirty before in the past. And after I talked to her for a while, she realized, oh, we're on the same page. And I told her, I said, no, man, I've got all the respect in the world for Dr. Carl Baugh. And I'm going to convey that respect in my video. Absolutely. Oh, man, here's an amazing file. What? It is going down. When you walk to the museum, when you go into the museum, the sidewalk leading up to the front door has fossils embedded in the concrete. I thought that was so cool. Here's some more. Yeah, man, they did an awesome job. I took pictures of everything, guys. There's a giant fossilized tree. Whole forests out here in Glen Rose were fossilized. Archaix pine fossil tree from northwest Colorado. It took a whole truck to bring that here, guys. I know it did. I've seen fossil wood in Porter, Texas for sale. And it's whole flatbed trucks bring that stuff in from Arizona. Remember, guys, I used to be a contractor, Paradise Rock Gardens, and people order fossil wood. People order all kinds of amazing things to put in their yards. And in Porter, Texas, on Interstate 59, they got a huge place that caters and sells this type of stuff. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's refill time. Let's move on to the next one. What we got next? Oh, I don't know how that picture got in there. It's in the wrong file. But you guys didn't see that one. So we must look at it again. Yeah, they're studying all kinds of stuff. Look how clear my camera is. Fannin County, Texas. North Sulphur River. Taylor Group. There it is. I was just telling y'all about Taylor. So this is one of the fossils they found in the Taylor location. That's what they've been digging lately. That is a fossil skull or vertebrae or something. I don't know what it is. Stegosaurus. Oh, last meal of a Stegosaurus. This is the stomach. Whatever was in the stomach. It's crazy. Look at that fossil. Look at that. Oh, there's some amazing fossils I'm about to show you. It's almost 3D. It wasn't quite all the way crushed. Just different body parts of different creatures that have been found. Some of them are not really recognizable. You see how they put it in quotations? Jurassic. They know it's not Jurassic, but flood deposit, sauropod, this big old bone. This is a vertebrae, chambered lizard. That's a big old vertebrae. Stegosaurus bones. Stegosaurus was a horned turtle. It was like a horned turtle and a lizard combined. There was just megafauna. It was giant. These are eggs. Yeah. If eggs are going to fossilize, then that means they were flash frozen before the cataclysm actually disturbed everything, mixed up everything, and then waters scrambled all the materials for them to layer by weight and density. There's no way eggs would have ever survived a cataclysm if they weren't artificially hardened first. This is why I tell you guys the whole world froze. All right. These are eggs too. This is a three-dimensional jellyfish. You are looking at, this is the species of jellyfish right here. That's the species. However you say that. I don't even know. You're looking at a petrified underbelly. This is the underbelly. All these were actually tentacles they broke off. But these are the tentacle stubs. This is a three-dimensional jellyfish from the underside. You can't petrify a jellyfish, but you can flash freeze it. So it maintains its three-dimensional structure, and then it turns to stone slowly as the surrounding silicates in the ice transfer with the biological material that is decomposing. As it thaws. There it is right there. Jellyfish. That's upside down jellyfish right there. A lot of detail here. There it is from looking at it head on. Aerial view. This is a little bitty guy here. That's a little bitty guy. It looks like a chicken. Plucked chicken. Here's another little bitty guy. These are real fossils at the Glen Rose Creation Museum. Amazing. Amazing. These two snakes were coiled together when they were fossilized. How did that happen? Two snakes, and one of them is positively identified as a rattlesnake. Two snakes coiled together, probably scared to death because something was going on. They sensed it in the field. They wrapped around each other in terror and fear and whatever, and then bam, flash frozen. Again, here's the same picture. It's really amazing. It's really amazing. Such a good camera. There's an earthworm. There's some other stuff in there. There's other things in there, but there's an earthworm. Earthworms are so delicate. How do you petrify an invertebrate? Oh, I know. You flash freeze it. Another earthworm. Wow. Look at him. He's just a little grub worm outside Dallas County, Texas. Sauropod eggs. Again, these are eggs. These are pre-flood creature eggs that are turned to stone. Look at this. The actual skin of a dinosaur, which is nothing but a large reptile or a large amphibian. A lot of the integrity was preserved very good. Very good. Okay, it's hard to imagine what this is, but they've got it down to a science. They know what this is a oceanic saltwater sponge. It's just it broke like glass. But they can tell by looking at microscopically, they looked at it. It's a saltwater sponge. Look at this. What? Look at the starfish and trilobites at the same time. Why is this a problem? Because starfish are still here with us today. Yeah, man, this is amazing, guys. Absolutely amazing. So many tiny microscopic life forms that were also flash frozen. Remember, I've showed you guys actual pictures on my channel of plankton fossilized. How do you petrify microscopic plankton? How do you turn to stone tiny little organisms that shrimp eat? How? I can tell you. Oh, you flash freeze the ocean. Look at the detail here. This is a crinoid. It's just a giant one. Yeah, this took up the whole glass case. That's a crinoid. How do you petrify delicate undersea on the ocean bottom plant life? How do you do it? Three-dimensional trilobite. A 3D trilobite. Look at that little 3D creature. Man, it's blurry. No! I know, I got another picture of that one. I know I do. I did not let it go down like that. We're going to look. Look at this. A sea scorpion. This is a trace fossil. A lot of detail. Here's a fish. Another fish. Oh, that's a fish right there. This fish is almost 3D. At least we could call it bas relief. Yeah, it's an interesting fish. Oh, I still got the cool. I'm telling you now, I have not showed you the coolest stuff yet. I'm building up to it. Here's a shrimp. Oh, check this out. I've had these on my plate. It's amazing. 300 million year old shrimp on my plate at Red Lobster don't look any different than their ancient counterparts found fossilized in stone. Plant life of exquisite detail. Look at that. Three-dimensional. That's 3D. It's a 3D plant. It's like a tree trunk. Ornate. It's just weird. That's like a pineapple. And then we got trace fossils up here. Very, very detailed trace fossils. Look at that. We got trees that look just like this today. There's no difference, guys. The differences aren't from millions of years. The differences are because of ultraviolet light. Plants grow differently. Air pressure, atmospheric pressure, and also the oxygen content and the oxygen and nitrogen ratio. Every bit of this totally changes the environment, and the flora, the relationships between flora and fauna are all altered in a totally different biosphere, just like I showed you with the rattlesnake venom. In the pre-flood world, a man walking barefoot got bit by a rattlesnake, wouldn't even have to worry about anything. It's barely an irritation because the venom wasn't poisonous. Look at that. Beautiful. Uh-oh, Jiminy Cricket. There he is. Grasshopper. Nemesis reset theory, the Medusa effect. My moderators, please, every once in a while, put that link in the chat, because new people need to see the actual proof that our whole world froze. They need to see the actual evidence that every single garden variety insect and small life form that we find in our American backyards right now is in 300 million year old Permian and Cambrian bedrock. All these fossils of all these organisms, and these organisms are all easily collectible today in our backyards without a single hint of any evolutionary development. That video, I documented all. It'll blow your mind. Giant water bug. Yeah, these critters here are all over my backyard, right here. Why are dragonflies with the most sophisticated just aerial navigation biological system ever known, with 2 heart chambers allowing them to withstand G forces that are incredible because they can turn instantly and go a different direction? How is it that this creature can be found in 65 million year old strata, and it's the same creature flying around all over Texas right now? I don't think people understand just how long a million years is. Multiply that by 65. Uniformitarianism is so dumb. Mayfly. There he is, little critter. There's those trilobites, little baby starfish again. Oh, I did get a picture of that guy. And there he is. That is one ugly 3-dimensional fossil. I'm not buying that. You're killing me, Smalls. I'm not buying that uniformitarian crap, man. Because every bit of that, everything you're saying right here, I'm going to quote you, man, because you took the time to say this in my comments. Look, you're killing me, Smalls said, some species experience less overly intense evolution when they are already well adapted to their environment. That really sounds good. There are still changes, just not physically, but in things like higher fertility levels. I'm calling bullshit on that because your statement absolutely requires that our environment has been stable for millions of years. It is not. New species are introduced because the biosphere has changed. Even in human memory, you haven't been on my channel very long, but even in human memory, the traditional mythological and textual record, the memories of mankind have known periods when there was no moon in the sky, and it changed our world. There were also vapor canopy periods where the sun wasn't seen for centuries. Not one, but not two, but three different periods in human memory. We had no sun, and yet the sun was up there, but we were like Venus, a vapor canopy world, and the air pressure intensified. The flora, it was a Garden of Eden world. The volcanism, because so much volcanic activity put all this material in the sky, it had an opposite effect what uniformitarians preach. That we're going to go into an ice age, it's going to be cold, but it didn't happen that way. Instead, it created a greenhouse effect just like Venus. Yes, no, I'm not buying that because to buy that, I would have to also buy that same bullshit about relative dating methods and how the carbon-14 isotopes in the atmosphere break down and they're stable, and they're not. They've never been shown to be stable. Yeah, you are commenting on a person's channel that is far more educated than I'm even able to elucidate verbally. I've got the receipts. All this uniformitarian shit is just that. It is total crap, every bit of it. Not buying it, man. There's no way you're going to tell me that our world as is today is the same world that goes back all this time. And every single time there's a change in the environment, there's a change in species. There's a change in all these things. Now, these right here, entire world flash froze. The uniformitarian model of how fossils are created is total BS. And that's why you need, specifically, whoever you are, you need to go watch my Medusa effect video because you're going to see fossils that are absolutely impossible by the establishment explanation. Three-toed print. It's not a very good one. Ammonites. These are large ones too. Little school of fish look like perch. They look like perch. Those are colorful. That's a polished ammonite. That's why it's got so much reflection on it. Giant ammonite fossil from underwater. It's opalized. Look, it's turned to opal. I have seen a few fossils that have turned into semi-precious stone, mineral, fossil fish. Yeah, we've got real good fossils of animals giving birth. In the act of giving birth, pushing other animals out of through their pelvic bones, they're flash frozen. Other animals in the middle of swallowing. We have fossils of creatures in the middle of fighting each other, and they're flash frozen. Trilobites. Some of these are 3D fossils. They weren't crushed into trace fossils like other ones. Fossil clams. See these bivalves. Now, when it comes to bivalves, Remember in my prior presentations, guys, I've showed you that whole clam and oyster fields have been found. And it's very interesting because the fossil fields that were found showed that the ocean beds, the corals, the local corals, and the bivalve colonies were all fossilized together. And the unique thing that was found was the bivalves were closed. And this was a significant clue as to how rapid this happened. This means that they never had a chance to die, because once a bivalve dies, it opens. The muscles relax, and this is why on the beach you find all the half shells. It's very rare to find a bivalve with both shells, because as soon as they die, those muscles relax and it cracks open, and it just opens wide and they break apart. But that's not what we find in the fossil record. In the fossil record, we find most oysters and clams, the bivalve is shut. Jason, why? Why did that happen like that? I don't understand. Because the whole world flash froze. I can already hear the uniformitarians. but that can't be true. That's a dumb theory, because we have, just like you said, Jason, we have all these insects and life forms today. So it couldn't have flash froze. How would this survive? Well, that's because you're not a proponent of Archaix. Because if you've been listening to my channel, I have far more evidence that we live in a controlled environment. It is simulated, and that species, genus, and genera are all artificially introduced into the field, and that you live inside Roko's basilisk, and that the Fermi paradox is only one, just like the dichotomy paradox, that absolutely shows us that we're inside an artificial reality, and everything in here is some type of controlled experiment. And the uniformitarian model is just one excellent way to gaslight the shit out of everybody and keep them from seeing things as they truly are. Here's more right here. There's a mammoth tooth. Man, if that dude ever got a toothache, I know he'd be hurting. Mastodon bones. And look at that critter. Look at that critter. Oh, the best is still yet to come, guys. This is all remedial. You know I'm not going to give you the real juicy. How does Martin say it? I'm going to give you the juicy at first. I'm going to make you earn it. Oh, there's the London hammer. It's amazing. Fossilized. It's been studied by so many people. That iron has almost zero carbon in it. Almost no oxygen in it. I don't know how the hell they manufactured that iron. How they smelted it. How they removed the dross and they burned it to whatever temperature they needed to remove the impurities. This hammer, maybe the fossilization process itself changed the chemical composition of the iron. I don't know. They don't know either. But that's but no fossil creature made that. You know, we didn't have, this ain't Land of the Lost. We didn't have no reptoids running around making hammers like that. No, a human made that hammer. And it was a human pre-cataclysm. Man, nice file. Nice file. Okay, we're getting into the juicy. Getting into the juicy. Let's do it. What we got here? Oh, it's a video. Hold on, I got to show a video. Hold on. We'll show that in a minute. I didn't know that was a video. It didn't even look like one. All right, cool. 8th century AD totem from Bolivia, South America. What's going on here? Why are the Native Americans of the Aymara drawing dinosaurs, carving dinosaurs into their artifacts? What's going on? If it was an isolated incident, Dino 1, human 1, the dinosaur is eating the guy. Look at this. Look at that. That is an Aymara Native American totem pole. And it shows a dinosaur eating a man. So I want to show another one. Why is it showing over there? This is probably better pictures here. This one right here is a different one. This right here showing a different dinosaur on the other side of the totem pole. Yeah, so it's not a mistake. Aymara totem poles are showing 2 different prehistoric creatures. But it's not the only one. It's not the only totem pole they've got here. I'm going to show you some more. Acámbaro of Africa, right here. This is just a display, but it's showing what's being described as pterodactyls. Now, in the writings, I didn't bring the books in here because I forgot I was going to talk about this, but you guys know in the Lost Cities series of David Hatcher Childress, he has a whole chapter on dinosaurs and humans existing together. And there are many Native American traditions of pterodactyl-like creatures that would pick people up, carry them off. And as a matter of fact, Native Americans even had different alarms, these little rattles and stuff, to let other people know when these creatures have been seen. And you've seen the petroglyphs on my channel. I've shown the actual petroglyph, photographs of the petroglyphs of Native American, not agroglyphs, but petroglyphs where they draw on rock people being carried away by giant winged things in the sky. So we have some theoretical stuff, but it's interesting, showing different biblical and Babylonian beliefs about winged things in the sky, Native American thunderbirds, showing. Now, do you guys remember in one of my earlier videos when I was reading out of a book from the 1800s when the British were creating a battery at Gibraltar? A battery is to put cannons in, and they were using dynamite to blast on a cliff face at the Strait of Gibraltar because they wanted to cover the strait between Africa and Europe. They wanted a battery there, so they're going to put cannons in the cliffside. In order to do that, they dynamited several areas. In the account that I was reading on YouTube, one of those explosions uncovered a natural cave, or they thought it was a natural cave. Trapped inside that cave, a foul, putrid air came out. And the men were astonished and horrified. When they had gone back after the explosion to the rubble, they heard something. Sounded like it was like creaking. And it was. And the wings had become basically one with the creature itself, but it had wrapped itself in its own wings. It had a long beak, and they described it as dinosaur type creature. And it was about 7 foot tall, and it was like 2 feet wide, and it just fell forward. And it started decomposing rapidly, but they said it was giving noises at first like it was alive, and that the dynamite had woken it up from a long hibernation. And its eyes were milky white. And this is a mining account from the 1800s where something from the cataclysm had buried alive some type of creature and entombed it. And a lot of amphibians and reptiles can be entombed in like under a pond or a tank in a desert, and they can lie there dormant for years alive. And then when a good rain comes in that area, all of a sudden overnight there's fish, turtles, frogs, all in the dam in the middle of a desert. And it's because the amphibians and reptiles have this characteristic that they can lay dormant for years. Well, this is a pretty interesting account, but it was from the 1800s. It was a pterodactyl like creature that had been encased in the cliff face. I got to remember what book that was I was reading. It's right here on my YouTube channel. One of my early videos. That's what Archaix 4.0 is. It's been 5 years, guys. It's time to go back and get all those old videos because we have so much new stuff to add to them. And of course, my delivery I'm much better in delivery. I'm much better in the collation of data and the ability to present it. So, and I'm not so tech retarded anymore. Just a little bit. Leviathan Inca burial stone. So here's a burial stone that shows a man riding a dinosaur. Here's one with a man fighting a dinosaur. These are Nazca stones that show giant creatures in humans. And there's some theories here that some of these patterns were of pre-flood creatures. Again, we have all kinds of interesting. Look at this. Look at this ancient cup. Nazca, Peru. I think it's in the Bolivian Altiplano, actually. Yeah, man. So crazy. It's so interesting. Yeah. Look at that. Don't sit here and argue with me. Don't sit here and argue with me that Brachiosaurus, Seismosaurus, Brontosaurus type creatures, which to me are nothing but vapor canopy creatures, and giant herbivores from the pre-flood world. Don't tell me that humans didn't coexist, because we got a human right here riding on the back of a pterodactyl, flying over a peaceful bovine type reptile or amphibian right here. A Brontosaurus or a Brachiosaurus or a Seismosaurus, whatever it is. Look at that. Because I'm going to tell you now, no dinosaur drew that. It wasn't a dinosaur. This ain't Land of the Lost. There wasn't no reptoid drew this. A human carved this. So if this was the human's frames of reference, then there's no other conclusion that can be made that humans 12 centuries ago had seen dinosaurs. I tell you guys all the time, our world is not what you think. Can't really tell what that is. Look at these. What is going on? Now, these are not in the museum. These are ones that are in other museums, but the ones that are in the museum I already showed you pictures of. They've got real ones. Here's ones that were found and they've been displayed in other museums. Don't tell me you're not looking at a dinosaur. I'm not going to hear it. Yeah, you can try to explain this away any way you want to, but that is a sauropod biting the top of a vase so you'll have a handle for what you're pouring. That's what you're looking at. Pre-Columbian golden crown. What in the hell? Look at, what are you looking at? These are stylized Stegosaurus. Every kid knows what Tyrannosaurus Rex is, Brontosaurus Rex, Velociraptors, because the movie made them popular, but they all educated to know the difference between a Stegosaurus, this, and a Triceratops. Every kid is indoctrinated to know these life forms. Pre-Columbian golden crown. What is this doing in Peru? Stegosaurus. Amazing. Amazing. In Southeast Asia, what are these Stegosaurus doing in the artwork of temples in Southeast Asia? What is going on? Stegosaurus among the roots of old banyan trees. Guys, this is Angkor Wat. We've been told Angkor Wat's not that old. What are these dinosaurs doing? Now, I'm going to tell you now, here's the real mystery. The mystery isn't what is Stegosaurus doing on a Southeast Asian temple. What is Stegosaurus doing there? That's not the mystery. The real mystery is what in the hell are humans doing here? What the hell are humans doing here during the age of the dinosaurs? We got any uniformitarians in the chat who want to answer that question? Man, let me tell you something. Modern day education will poison the hell out of you. You don't get certificates and degrees because you know how to think. Critical thinking is killed by establishment education. Look at that pretty little stegosaur. Probably peaceful as hell. You could probably pull up a bush, walk up to him, and feed it, and he'd just stare at you while he chewed at it. A big old giant plate-backed cow. And you know what? You guys already know. You know I love my pork chops. You know I love my sirloins, and especially, you know I'm gonna get the T-bones. Man, I love my ribs. I'm gonna try Stegosaurus. I'm gonna try him. South American burial stones. Do you think it's an anomaly to find one? It becomes mathematically improbable the more we find that humans didn't see these creatures with their own eyes. Look at this. This is an armadillo type. It almost looks like a Triceratops. It's a little bit different. There's a Triceratops in the middle. Brontosaurus. Maybe an Allosaurus right there. Definitely a Stegosaurus. Native Americans saw these creatures. These stones are only 12 centuries old. Look at that. This poor guy, he got run down by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Look at that. T-Rex got him a human. I'm telling you, here they are. Here they are. That is an anatomically perfect baby Brontosaurus. Right there. There it is. Maybe the baby Brontosaurus was like a delicacy. Almost said delicatessen. A delicacy. Maybe like you get lambs, you get veal. Maybe there was a type of meat on a baby Brontosaurus that was, something that they wanted. Because a real Brontosaurus is way bigger than all that. All right. Here's a man with a spear chopping into the back of a dinosaur. He's killing a dinosaur right now. So the real mystery isn't the dinosaurs on the Ica stones, because we have dinosaurs on stones. They're called fossils. So the real mystery here is, why are all these people in these pictures too? That's the real mystery here, and I'm trying to find some uniformitarians that will answer this mystery. Oh, wait a minute. Were we done with that one? Hold on. Did I go to the bottom of the page? No, I did not. I did not go to the bottom of the page. We got this guy with an axe about to fight some type of dinosaur. Interesting artwork, because the sun looks like it's looking down on him, or the moon. Now, if this is Graham Hancock looking at this, he's going to gaslight you. He's going to tell you that's not a Triceratops. Do you see that upside down lizard, that long tail? You see, at Göbekli Tepe, which is like 8,000 years BC, we have the same creature on a pillar. And we know, because it's on a pillar that shows a scorpion, we know it's 8,000 BC, the age of Scorpio. This whole site was all about the zodiac. So that means that can't be a Triceratops. It has to be a member of the zodiac that was known to the ancient Americans. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. 15th century AD European sauropod lookalikes. Excuse me. Look, they're lookalikes. Meaning you're being gaslit. Those aren't brontosauruses. They're just lookalikes. Stegosaurus carving, Southeast Asian temple. Look at this. What's going on? Come on, man. Are you serious? I don't have a problem believing it at all. I know dinosaurs didn't build that temple. Men did. Just like the Ishtar Gate of Babylon, which has creatures that are unidentifiable today. That's a creature that, because the other creatures are not fantasy creatures, they're anatomically correct creatures that were well known. This creature is not, but it's in the fossil record. I bet that's an extinct bull, I believe. It might be a real, maybe a bull still exists. Look at that. Those are anatomically correct humans. So why would you think that the creatures weren't anatomically correct? Look at that totem pole. Look at that Aymara, ancient Aymara, South American, Native American totem pole. Beautiful, isn't it? So we have so we see artifacts, and we've seen some visuals of other places where they don't actually have them at the Glen Rose, but we see artifacts that humans and what scientists call dinosaurs were living together. We know of the Ica stones, and we definitely know of the Acámbaro 35,000 figurines that show anatomically perfect prehistoric creatures and humans interacting in Mexico. Got a whole video about Acámbaro too. So with this great body of evidence, it should come as no surprise that even the fossil record, petrified ecosystems also show humans and dinosaurs coexisted. Famous print. When the cataclysm was happening, this man was moving. He was moving. There are other books that show other footprints, showing the gate, showing running people, raindrop impressions. Everything was going down right before everything flash froze. So this guy was going one direction. This vapor canopy amphibian or reptile was going another direction and had stepped on top of the human's footprint, and the whole ecosystem froze, fossilized. These prints have been found everywhere. Something devastating happened to preserve these footprints like this, almost on the surface. Theropod means three. It's got three talons. So what? They kind of look evil. This could have been a herbivore, just a large reptile or amphibian that ate the most abundant thing in the pre-flood world: giant plants and mushrooms. This is called the ballroom site, discovered in 2009. The reason it's called the ballroom site is because there's a panic stampede going on here. These creatures were running in all different directions. In many prints are recorded, and it's different species. They call it the ballroom. This place was wet and muddy when all of a sudden it petrified. It turned to stone, or it flash froze first. I've been all up and down the Paluxy River Basin as a child and now recently. Giant prints. You can lay in some of them. The whole Paluxy River bottom is stone. It's petrified. People pull them out and sell them. Look at that. 1995, this was discovered. I got better pictures than that. It's been X-rayed, CT scanned. It's the real McCoy. Somebody was either going to fall or fell down. They needed to catch their balance, and their whole hand sank into the stuff right before it petrified. Oh, man. Do I have a picture of that? Oh, I didn't get a picture of it. There's supposed to be a picture here of a sandal print crushing a trilobite. It's famous, and I don't have a picture of it. I've showed it to you on my channel before in other videos, but there's a famous, it shows a sandal print. You can still see trace amounts of stitching. You know it's a sandal print, and somebody stepped on a trilobite. A human sandal stepping on a trilobite completely overturns 175 years of uniformitarian bullshit, because trilobites are supposed to be 600 million years old. So dumb. Let me spend a lot of money, or let me spend a lot of my parents' money for 4 years of education in university, and let me specialize and go for my master's or my doctorate, and let me come out dumber than I ever was when I went in, because that's what's happening. All right, master. This is all about the sandal print. It's been studied a lot too. Different human footprints that have been found. This one's a giant human footprint. This footprint indicates that the man stood 8.5 feet tall. Here's the looter's print, 8.5 feet tall. Oh, there's the trilobite. Here's the sandal. Here's the sandal prints, and I don't know if you can see the. You can't quite see the trilobite. They got a line going to it, so you'd see it. Can't really see it in this picture, but that's the trilobite. Look at this footprint. Very, very clearly distinguished. Yeah, man. So if fossils are indicating something that is 65 million years old because something impacted our world and created the iridium layer called the KT boundary. If the official scientific version is true, then, excuse me, then all these human footprints, handprints, are equally true. Now the uniformitarians have a problem because now we have humans existing 65 million years ago. But the problem even gets worse because we have humans that have totem poles that are still wood, unfossilized, that show dinosaurs. And we have unfossilized porcelains and ceramics made by Native Americans that show anatomically correct dinosaurs. There's a problem here. The problem is 65 million years old. It's amazing. They still ain't figured it out. Remember what Joe Biden said. See, the problem is we forgot how to think. Human footprint. Why are these human footprints being fossilized? If fossils are 65 million years old, if something is true somewhere, that's an Archaix research tenet. If something is true somewhere, probably true everywhere. So if fossils are 65 million years old, so is that hammer. If fossils are 65 million years old, so is that dinosaur print stepping on top of a human footprint. Yeah, they totally ignore that one. Now, if it had been the other way around, a human footprint on top of a dinosaur footprint, they'd have cried foul. Say, oh no, that was a dinosaur footprint. Somebody come in here and just drew, somebody come in here and etched out that human footprint. They'd have cried foul. The Berwick print, giant man tracks, 1938 discovered. They looking at the footprint and they can determine it's a female footprint. A woman's 13-inch right foot. So she was pretty big. She was real big. Man, that's just amazing. You see how the theropod print pushed into the mud real hard and distorted the human footprint, but you can still see the heel. You can see the arch. You see all 5 toes. Holy shit. Is that 6 toes? No, it's a rock. Okay, all 5 toes on the human footprint. How deep the big toe is and the front heel pretty much indicates that he was either running or he was leaning forward. Yeah, man. That fossil right there is at Glen Rose. You are not looking at a replica. The original fossil is right here at Glen Rose with a bunch of other giant prints and stuff. Here's another human footprint fossil. So here it is again. A lot of mentions of the Taylor Trail, Taylor property, Taylor sector, all that. Must be a real fossil rich area near Glen Rose. Look at that. That footprint there. Zapata. That would probably be a child footprint. It's 9 inches long. It's probably a child. There's another human footprint. There's another one. Don't touch my feet. So, so that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let's go with that exhausts the Creation Museum. We did really good on that, but we're not done. We're not done. So you guys can see here. Make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Yeah, the Dinosaur Valley Park. It's amazing. Dinosaur Valley National Park, Glen Rose, Texas. The flagstone on this building, this is the entry building. It's awesome. When you go in there, there's the Dino store, the Dino store. It's got all kinds of campgrounds, amphitheaters, places to do lectures, hiking trails going all different directions. As you can see, I went through this thing just taking pictures. It was so beautiful. I got a few pictures you're seeing here, and then it's going to switch over to video. You're going to be able to see this video. You're going to see dinosaur tracks in the water. You're going to see me picking up fossils. This place is amazing. It really is amazing. I had a blast. I had a blast. I seen somebody in the chat mention 6 fingers and all that, but yeah, it's those 6-fingered anatomically correct humans, except the only thing different is that they had 6 digits. They have been found. They've been well documented here in North America, in South America, I believe in North Africa, and of course in the Bible. Of course in the Bible. You already know that Goliath's son had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. This is the Paluxy. This is parts of the Paluxy River Basin. It wraps around. It's a huge loop. It's a pitchback, and in just the section of the state park. The state park's pretty big. It's pretty big, and it's in the RV park where I was staying is right next to it. But you can see the evidence of cataclysm all over this place. This entire Paluxy River Basin, the whole floor of the river is fossil stone. These fossil beds are all on the side. I'm going to show you another mystery here in a minute. It is really interesting. It's very compelling. Something I found on the ground. Because we're looking at we're finding life forms and fossils of the pre-flood world, but because they're fossilized, then this was evidence of the actual Great Flood. Then I found something else that's post-diluvian, and this is where things got really interesting, and I had to videotape it. So the last thing you'll see here is what I found scattered all over the ground amidst these fossils. Yeah, it tells the story. There's no other way to interpret it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Tells the story. So you guys know that we live a very short lifespan. So in living the short lifespan, we really can only know information secondhand through tradition, through lore, legends, and the written record. Because we didn't have people videotaping things, and our memory is short. And if we are, as I believe, living life sims, then each avatar is preserving memory that is later uploaded into the holographic field where it's retrieved by us later. But as long as we are in an avatar, we are separated from that holographic memory bank. Call it the Akashic field, call it the simulacrum, I don't care. But we don't have access to the stored memories from previous life sims while we're in a present avatar, because the avatar doesn't belong to us. This avatar belongs to the construct itself. It is constructual programming, and that constructual programming doesn't have personal memory embedded into it from previously existing life forms like we used to be. It has everything in the here and now. So when we see all this evidence in nature of prior cataclysms and cataclysmic activity, we see the broken earth and fossils everywhere. When we see this, we're looking at the residual programming of pre-existing biospheres that are no longer operable. The programming ceased to operate, flash freezing the entire construct. But then new programming protocols continued, new life forms based off older models and past predicates are introduced back into the field, and bam, we have the Cambrian explosion. And the Cambrian explosion is one of science's greatest mysteries. Why? Because there's no predicates. All of a sudden, very complex biological organisms are introduced into the field, amphibians, reptiles, all kinds of fish, flora, all different species of things and they're very complex, especially their eyes. The eyes are extremely complex, and yet there are no previously existing Precambrian life forms from which they could have derived. Over and over and over, I've showed you guys on my channel evidence that species of plants and animals just suddenly appear, and they are introduced by whatever is running this simulation, because this is what it is. We are in a simulated environment. It is a closed system, and there is something that has the ability to edit in new phenomena, new biospheres, reset protocols, completely remove whole entire populations, introduce other ones. And when humans become very aware that there is a problem, like in 1867 and 1868, when they realize there's a great problem and that all of a sudden, damn, there's no more roly-polies in England. And then magazines start publishing, hey, where are all the beetles, flies, mayflies, butterflies, dragonflies, and horseflies? Where are all the moths? How come no one's seen a cockroach in 2 years? The silverfish are all gone. What is going on? When this happened in 1867 and 1868, and all of a sudden it was the buzz all over England that all the insects had disappeared, what happened? The construct took this as a signal that there was something wrong because so many people were resonating with it. And as Charles Fort and many others documented, in 1867 and 1868, all of a sudden, whatever the construct is governed by, God, cataclysm protocols, Genesis protocols, computerized overseer programs, whatever is governing, whatever is acting as the governor over the maintenance of the construct, instantly went into correction mode. But it overcorrected, and the people of England were stunned to observe rivers of insects falling from blue skies. Ship captains were horrified to have their ships blanketed with insects falling from the sky, some of them frozen, to the point where all hands had to be called on deck to broom insects into the sea, because the sea was getting covered too before the ships capsized. This isn't Jason of Archaix embellishing or making stuff up. This is all in the historical record. Chimney sweeps and people of all different occupations in England had to be requisitioned and forced just to sweep up insects and burn piles of insect carcasses because the stench was causing disease. The construct isn't malicious. It was simply an overcorrection, because all of a sudden, maybe it's a frequency deal. Maybe when 300 people are all talking and thinking about something being unusual, it's not enough to affect the field. However, all of a sudden, when 2,000 people, then 3,000 people, then 5,000 people are all talking about the same thing, the construct is now documenting it. Oh, wow, there are no insects. Somehow our programming protocols have edited out the doodlebug and the mayfly and the silverfish and the monarch butterfly, and every species of moth and the walking sticks and the cockroaches, and all these insects are now gone, and the construct is now documenting. It's going into documenting mode. Okay, well, cool. This is exactly what happened. but maybe it took a 10,000 different personalities to all start talking and writing about it before the field realized, oh, there is a problem, and it didn't have some self-regulatory process by which it could regulate its own response to the sudden awareness that occupants of the construct were aware that there was a huge problem. So it overcorrected, and this is what we have in the historical record. And it's not the first time that happened. So these are all in my older videos. My older videos talk about all these type of things. It's all very interesting. All very interesting. So yeah, as you can see here, this is the Paluxy River. Let me see if I can blow up this film a little bit. Oh, it won't let me. It won't let me do it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to blow it up. That's what happens when you hold your camera sideways. Yeah, man. I was helping people get across too, because once they saw me do it, several people wanted to do it. Some wanted to cross on the boulders, some on the rocks. I was holding the hand of some stranger. I don't know who it was, but I helped her. She was holding on to her granddaughter, and we got them across. Because there's little islands out there that are really awesome to go check out. There's fossils everywhere, guys. You don't even have to really look hard. Don't even have to look hard. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Very clear. I don't know if you can see them. I showed some footage of fish. It's so clear you can see the fish. Rocks weren't even, not even slippery, because I mean they're not. When you have moving water like this, the algae really don't take, and the rocks don't get real slippery. There's always an amount of friction. That water's creating friction enough to where there's no algae buildup on the deal. Now there's rocks on the side that have algae buildup, and they're real slippery. Oh yeah. September and October. Somebody asked that in the chat. Absolutely. In September and October, this is Central Texas, guys. And in September, October, and November, it's still green and beautiful and nice. It's not like up north where in October and the fall the trees start changing and all that. No, not like this. It's not like that here in Central Texas. Yeah, our winters in Texas really don't begin until December. And where I'm at in South Central East Texas, it's our winters don't even begin till January. We might get a cold snap in December or two. There's nothing. We don't get the real cold weather until January and sometimes February. So yeah, I don't know. Y'all can't see it. There's fish in the water, and I'm just showing. Sometimes you can see fossils in the water. It's just beautiful. Sometimes I'm showing. Oh, I'm crossing the river. Yeah, that's why I'm going slow, because the current's strong. It would be easy if I wasn't filming, because I have to watch my step. I'm barefoot. Yeah, that's how beautiful it is. I took my shoes and socks off, and I went barefoot over the river. Yeah, it's beautiful. Now, here in a little while, you're going to see what I found, because all over the river, these items are there, and I collected them, and I took very good pictures, and I wanted to show you guys not only the pictures, I took video of them, because you got to see this, because this it's amazing, guys, what I collected, because it tells the story of what happened, how all this got fossilized, how all this area, how Central Texas looks like a disaster area geologically. Yeah, it's amazing. That is amazing. The water temperature might be a little colder in October, but October still gets hot. In Texas, October gets hot. It's a beautiful river. I was here as a kid, and I had water balloon war. We were doing water. We were playing soccer and having water balloon wars and shooting each other with slingshots. Yeah, man. It's like a paradise out there. So beautiful. Even the lightning and thunderstorms were beautiful. There's some minnows, little bitty tiny minnows. Yeah, the uniformitarian viewpoint is extremely toxic. And as I've shown in prior presentations, for centuries, the scientific investigation of our world was all done from the catastrophist model, because catastrophism goes back to even ancient writers like Strabo, Diodorus Siculus. You guys know I've quoted Arnobius of Sicca before, and he pretty much defined reset theory. And I've quoted Arnobius and also Lucretius. Lucretius talked about that the entire history of the world is one of earthquakes and the civilizations that did not survive them. Yeah. So Ovid's Metamorphosis. There are so many ancient writers that document these massive cataclysms and all these things that have happened. Yeah, man, look at that. Somebody just asked about Jason. I rarely do this in the middle of a video, but this one just stood out. Lyricus, thank you for the $5. Jason, what is your opinion on the concept of primordial chaos? Okay, when we go back to before the pre-flood, first of all, you have to understand that the pre-flood period, according to the historical record from all these sources that I've cited to you guys before, was precisely a very arbitrary number, 1,656 years. This is the duration of the antediluvian period, according to so many different sources. The number is very arbitrary. We know it's divisible by 138, and the 138 year periodicity perfectly identifies the Phoenix phenomenon. All this is well documented. Now, but in order to be a starting point for a whole nother period, that means something else just ended. And in order for that something else that just ended, which from the historical and traditional record, we also know was a 930-year-old civilization. That 930-year-old civilization ended in 3895 BC, which began the pre-flood world of 1656 years, which in itself ended in 2239 BC with this massive Typhon flood known in the Bible as the Great Flood. So the 930-year period was a period of stability and civilization, and it ended abruptly, so terribly, in 3895 BC by the Phoenix phenomenon again, the end of Eden, that according to the biblical record, it was actually the beginning. It was the creation. Mankind were told to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. They thought it was a new heavens and a new earth because the disaster was so total. They're described as naked in Genesis because they are the survivors of those who they're the offspring of those who survived the reset. It was a terrible reset. The story got mixed up by the Jews in Babylon, copying the old cuneiform Babylonian records of the Enuma Elish and the Atrahasis epic and the Karsag tablets, and they got their facts wrong. It was supposed to be a 930-year-old period that had ended in cataclysm, and the race that died were called the Adamu, a race that was built from earthen materials, very similar to the traditions of the Mayan Popol Vuh, which talks about different races of humans built at different times from different materials. Now, the Genesis version says that Adam died at 930 years old. And the book of Jasher says that when Adam died at 930 years old, It was the year 2965 BC, and this was a sun darkening episode. When Adam died, the sun went black. But that's not what happened. There's been a mix-up in a misinterpretation of the Babylonian cuneiform. The Babylonian cuneiform would have said that the Adamu, the race of Adamu, were wiped out in a cataclysm, the Enam Elish, the Tiamat cataclysm in the 930th year. The Jews in Babylon invented the pronoun Adam from the cuneiform Akkadian word for mankind, which was Adamu. They created Adam, and they said that Adam lived for 930 years. But no, 930 years is the distance in time that the Adamu civilization survived before they were wiped out. They were wiped out in 3895 BC, which happens to be our year one of the Annus Mundi calendar. It is year one of the pre-flood world, and it begins the 1656 year countdown to the Typhon flood, the Great Flood, or the Noah flood. So I'm mentioning all this because even the 930-year civilization had to have begun after the appearance of this chaos that you're talking about, because Ovid's Metamorphosis and Sanchuniathon's material on the Phoenician history and the Phoenician cosmology, as well as Hesiod's Theogony and many other sources, all show, like the Enema Elish, that the creation of our world was out of the detritus of the Tiamat destruction. This goes back to what in Archaix we have documented as 5239 BC, the Nemesis cataclysm. It is when our sister star imploded. And this is when all hell broke loose. And as I've documented, all these ancient calendrical systems actually all began when different bodies from Nemesis arrived to the Sol system and began disrupting things. And one of those is Earth. We are, according to the model, as shown in the sky, Earth itself is an intruder world. We don't even belong here. Our presence, tucked between Venus and Mars, completely disrupts the mathematical precision of the Titius-Bode law. The Titius-Bode law shows that Mercury from the surface of the sun times pi is basically where you find the moving belt of Venus. Venus from the surface of the sun times pi is basically where you find the belt of Mars, where it moves around the sun. This is the model, and this is the mathematical distribution of the planets according to the scientific model that has been basically presented to us in the last 300 years. Titius-Bode law shows that that Mars to the surface of the sun times pi is where we find the asteroid belt. And the asteroid belt is pretty wide, so it fits within the belt at 3 to 3.14. Then the asteroid belt from the surface of the sun times pi is exactly where we find the belt, the movements of Jupiter within a belt going around the sun. And then the same thing applies to Saturn. But Uranus and Neptune cross over and switch places once a year. So they're in that belt, but they do switch places. We're getting close to the end of that video. Then I'm going to show you the little video I'm talking about. So anyway, to answer your question, Jason, what is your opinion on the concept of primordial chaos? There was a period of Earth history when I don't know how to say this any other way. Doesn't really matter what your concept of the world is, because every bit of this is simulated. But there was a period when half of our world was covered by sunlight. The other half of our world was in perpetual darkness. During this period, the southern hemisphere faced space, and it never saw the sun. During this period, the northern hemisphere faced the sun, and it never was dark. And our world rolled around the sun. It didn't spin on an axis with an obliquity of 23.5 degrees like it does today, according to the model. Now, I'm a simulationist and I believe everything in the sky is simulated, but it's simulating something very compelling. Our world at one time was perpetual daytime on one side, perpetual night on the other. The hemisphere that was covered in darkness for a 270-year period was the southern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere is the only hemisphere marsupials were found. Marsupials are a proto-mammal that are specifically designed to thrive in the dark. I got one more video clip to show you guys, and we'll get to it. But let me real quick get here. Almost done. We are almost done. We are almost finished. All right. So we have this period of time when the southern hemisphere was always in the dark. The northern hemisphere was always well lit. And marsupials are all in the southern hemisphere. The only marsupial to exist today in the northern hemisphere in natural habitats is the opossum, because the opossum has been moved. It's over thousands of years. It's moved. It's been able to acclimate to many different areas. The opossum may have been transferred anciently by naval vessels as it was carried as a pet or whatever. I don't know, but the opossum is everywhere. But marsupials come from the southern hemisphere. Marsupials have they're called proto mammals, but they're actually more sophisticated than a lot of mammals. They can survive very cold temperatures. They can survive in near pitch black deals. Their olfactory senses are amazing. Their senses of smell. But the marsupials have an added protection for their young that normal mammals don't have. And that's the fact that marsupials were genetically designed to have a pouch of fat and fur where their young could come and tuck themselves into. It's like mama had a blanket. It's a very unusual period of time, but it's almost as if the construct prepared these animals to live through that. And there's also evidence in Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal camps and bone middens that humans were here as well during that period of time. And the habitable zone for humans would have been a place of perpetual twilight. A ring. Doesn't matter if you think the world's a disc or if it's a globe, there would have been a ring where humans would have thrived at, because it would have been perpetual twilight. They wouldn't have been in a world that was a sun baking them all the time, and they wouldn't have been in a world of perpetual dark. They would have been in the between period, Middle Earth. They would have been somewhere where like vapor canopy conditions. It'd be very unusual. But yeah, this is what we have with the primordial chaos. The primordial chaos traditions that we find, like I told you, in Ovid and in Plato. I don't know about Plato, but Aristotle, his student, talked about the primordial chaos, the first cause being water, and everything was covered in water and came from water and all that. This would have been the Nemesis cataclysm, and it's when our binary star, we had two suns in this system, it is when that star collapsed and became Nemesis, the dark star. Last thing I want to show in this video, last thing I want to see in this video is, last thing I want to show is this video clip. So let's share my screen. share my screen. Go here. Boop, 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 boop. Do that, do that. And if I'm going to share my screen, I need to find what I'm going to share. So the last video clip and last thing I want to share with you guys is what I saw, what I found in Glen Rose that completely gives you perspective about what has happened here. This is a freshwater river. This is a freshwater river that you can drink the water. It's freshwater flora and fauna. It's a fossil basin. A cataclysm completely destroyed this area of Texas, actually the whole world. And the cataclysm flash froze all these life forms like jellyfish. Humans were here with biological fauna that were of gigantic sizes. Some of the people were really big too. Everything, the entire ecosystem, even the trees, polystrate fossils, everything flash froze and then turned to stone. This process did not take millions of years, it took minutes. And yet, among all this rock, I'm going to show it again. Despite all that, among all this rock are unfossilized seashells. These are bivalves. They don't appear in fresh water. These are salt water. These are saline life form bivalves from the ocean. And they're not fossilized. They're just regular shells, just like the ones you see at the beach. None of this stuff happened millions of years ago. These unfossilized seashells inside a freshwater river in central North Texas is because after the destruction, after the collapse of the vapor canopy, after the flash freezing that happened, we know that the world teetered. There was a pole shift. All kinds of things happened. And anytime that happens, and we know it's happened because the magnetite crystals have changed in volcanic rock, and they show us what magnetic north used to be as opposed to what it is today. These pole shifts that have been documented by geologists demonstrate that when the world moves, the oceans do not move with the land masses because water takes a long time to catch up with the inertia, the inertial force. Land masses in a pole shift move instantly, but the water drags, then builds, and it builds super high. What happened? We're talking about hours or days after the cataclysm is that the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and great seas and bodies of water then build up hundreds, sometimes thousands of feet as the inertia builds up. And then once it reaches critical mass, the inertia shoves this water over the land masses and deposits all these marine seashells and just distribution, and no ice ages caused all this boulder errata. Just like these books I've showed you on my channel from 1877, like the scientist who shows ice age is bullshit, and that water distributed all these boulders, all this errata. 1877 cyclical flood theory. That's the name of that video where I show that scientific research from the 1800s where that guy is showing that saline tsunamis are the reason for all this destruction in the northern hemisphere. Here's the proof. These aren't fossilized shells, and they're on the surface where I can pick them up. Why? Because they were the very last things deposited when the water washed over everything that had been previously flash frozen. That's my presentation, guys. That is Glen Rose, Texas. Dinosaur National Park and the Creation Museum. Need to stop sharing my screen. I did call 3 hours. I almost did 3 hours. I called 3 hours. Jonathan Weston. Saline Tsunami would be a good band name. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. That's my presentation. I had a great time. I had a great time in Glen Rose. It was kind of an emotional experience for me because I was there as a kid twice. And, you know, I was there at a happy time in my life. You guys know I went to prison at 17 years old, but it was at 13 and 14 that I was here at Glen Rose having the time of my life, trying to pummel people with water balloons. And I was interested in dinosaurs and fossils back then, and I kind of knew because of my education that even then I kind of knew evolution and natural selection and the uniformitarian model had critical problems. I just didn't know to what extent. And I think it's really great to come back full circle after, 38 years and then come back to Glen Rose and then be able to do these 2 awesome videos for you guys. I thought that was awesome. Thought it was great. Well, anyway, thanks for joining me on this Friday night. Share this video. This is a really good video, and so is the Medusa effect video on Nemesis reset theory for those who want more evidence of what we're talking about in this presentation. But I'm gonna go ahead and hit this beautiful outro for the next 3, 4, or 5 days. I'm going to catch up on all my emails. I got to catch up on things in my personal life. All of you in the Cypher Project, don't panic. I got your emails. Those of you with the ads, I've got your emails too. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to get taken care of. I'm just one guy, and I'm training one person right now. So let's just give me 3 or 4 or 5 days, and all this is going to pan out. Like I told you guys before, I'm a man on a mission. I'm going to get things done. No matter what pops up in my life, I'm going to get things done. Till later. Igor, it is Modelo time. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let me see what I got. What do I got here? I'm going to present. Let's find that beautiful outro. I love you guys.